from Palm Springs, California, weighing in at 220 pounds, Kerwin White.
He personifies middle-class America.
What a gentleman. He's got class.
This kid has been bred to wrestle. There's no doubt about it.
If it's not White,
it's not White.
I just don't think that it was one that had any longevity to it and in the best taste.
You either say no and possibly go back on the back burner for a while or get fired, or you say, all right, let's do it.
From male Chippendales to a guy who wrestles in a woman's dress, WWE Creative has had no shortage of comically terrible ideas during the Ruthless Aggression era, but perhaps none stands out more than having Chavo Guerrero Jr. denounce his Hispanic heritage to become Kerwin White. A character so shamelessly full of racial overtones, it's regarded as one of, if not the worst gimmick WWE has ever created. So what exactly happened? How can a well-respected third-generation superstar suddenly become a white supremacist? For us to really understand how awful this repackaging really was, let's look back at Guerrero's storied WWE career. First appearing as part of the Alliance during the infamous Invasion angle, Chavo Guerrero Jr. wrestled his debut match on the July 16th edition of WWF Jacked, defeating Cesar Rios in a short singles bout. As one of the younger, less established WCW stars acquired by WWF, Chavo had to literally work his way from the bottom, mostly being used in C-level shows or just another body for main roster battle royals. He would only get his big break a year later when he started teaming again with his uncle, the late great Eddie Guerrero. The two had previously formed a partnership in WCW during Chavo's early years, and unlike their previous outing, he was more willing to do whatever it takes to win this time, fully adopting his uncle's lie, cheat, and steal mantra. Calling themselves Los Guerreros, the two quickly rose through the ranks in the tag division, producing some of the most legendary tag team matches in WWE history, along with Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Edge, and Rey Mysterio. These men would later be known as the SmackDown 6, becoming a pivotal part in establishing SmackDown's identity as a brand in the onset of the Ruthless Aggression era. At Survivor Series 2002, Los Guerreros finally cemented themselves at the top of the tag division, defeating the rest of the SmackDown 6 in a three-way match to become the new WWE Tag Team Champions. While initially starting out as dastardly heels, the duo quickly became fan favorites due to their antics in and out of the ring, leading to an eventual face turn. And after valiantly defending the belts against any and all challengers, they would eventually drop it to the young and hungry team of Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. Not too long after, Chavo would suffer a torn bicep during a random dark match, putting him on the shelf for over 5 months. This led to Eddie having to find a temporary partner and later going on a singles run and winning the United States title. Chavo would make his triumphant return on September 18, 2003, dealing with some unfinished business as he reunited with Eddie to beat the world's greatest tag team and regain their titles. Things wouldn't go smooth sailing for long, however, as just a little over a month later, they would once again lose the belts, this time to the Basham brothers, marking the beginning of the end for the beloved uncle and nephew tandem. After failing to recapture the belts on several occasions, Chavo started getting disillusioned with his uncle, blaming him for all their losses. This rocky relationship would reach its breaking point on the Jan 8 edition of SmackDown when Chavo refused to help Eddie during a post-match beatdown by the Bashams and afterwards delivered a beatdown of his own. Because of this, a match was made for the Royal Rumble, pitting the two Guerreros against each other in a short but strong showing for both men. Eddie would end up winning the bout as expected as he was on the fast track to a main event push. Meanwhile, Chavo moved on from feuding with his uncle to going after Rey Mysterio's Cruiserweight Championship. And just a few weeks later, at the No Way Out pay-per-view, Chavo defeated Rey Mysterio with a little help from his father to become a 3-time Cruiserweight champion. Chavo would end up becoming a fixture of the Cruiserweight division from this point onwards, facing the best the division had to offer and adding 2 more title reigns to his name. And so, nobody could have predicted how things would take a turn for the absolute worst for the young Guerrero in just a year's time. At the iconic 2005 WWE Draft, the one where John Cena and Batista swapped brands, Chavo was one of the names included in the post-draft trades, sending him to Monday Night Raw. It was a pretty baffling move at the time, especially since Chavo was one of the more prominent names in the SmackDown exclusive Cruiserweight division. But even more baffling is everything that came after it. A week removed from the draft, Maria Kanellis was backstage, introducing what was supposed to be one of Raw's newest signings, Chavo Guerrero. However, the moment he came out, it was clear that this was an entirely different Chavo from the one we're all used to seeing on the blue brand. Gone was the trademark bandana and chin strap beard in favor of a dyed blonde hair, a clean shave, and what seemed to be a golfing attire. During the segment, Chavo, now calling himself Kerwin White, would literally denounce his Hispanic heritage on live TV and embrace the Anglo-American way, blaming the Hispanic people for holding him back from reaching his true potential. Then, on the August 14th episode of Heat, Kerwin White made his first in-ring appearance, sporting a new theme song and his own ride, not a low rider of course, but a golf cart. He would cut a very tongue-in-cheek promo, proclaiming himself as the Great White Hope and uttering his infamous catchphrase,
"If it's not white, it's not right."
In a later interview, Chavo would peel back the curtain on how Vince McMahon introduced his new gimmick to him and how he basically had no choice but to suck it up and just go with it. He also mentioned how committed he was to getting the maximum amount of heat for the gimmick, that he even pitched wearing a full white sheet like that of the Ku Klux Klan, which never made it to live TV for obvious reasons. But going back, White wrestled his first match on the following episode of Heat, beating Rosie by ironically taking a page out of his old self and using some underhanded tactics. He then followed this up with 2 back-to-back victories against another former Cruiserweight champion in Tajiri, using his new finishing move, a half Boston Crab, which he dubbed the Whiteout. Not satisfied with menial victories on Heat, White then decided to randomly pick a fight with Shelton Benjamin one day, throwing some very explicit racist remarks on the 2-time All-American athlete.
Shelton Benjamin is not one of us because Shelton Benjamin is not white.
Tell me, he didn't just say that.
And just to make sure that he had Benjamin's full attention, he would interfere in his match later that night, costing Shelton a victory over Rob Conway. The two would square off the following week on Raw, with White getting himself intentionally disqualified after battering his opponent with a golf club. He would try and pull this trick once again on the rematch at the Unforgiven pay-per-view. However, Benjamin had him well scouted this time, and he countered with a T-bone suplex to get the clean victory. This loss led to Mr. White deciding to up his game and hire a caddy, a young upstart named Nick Nemeth, who we all would eventually come to know and love from his time as Nicky! The hiring immediately paid dividends, as White managed to steal a victory over his rival with some help from his caddy. Unfortunately, this victory would end up being the peak of the gimmick, as White and his caddy were relegated to wrestling in Sunday Night Heat for the rest of his run. While he was still racking up wins, it was mostly in throwaway matches that led to nowhere, failing to capitalize on the heel heat that the character was slowly gaining. It would take only 3 months before the gimmick was abruptly axed under unexpected circumstances. On November 13, 2005, the wrestling industry was rocked to its core with the news of Eddie Guerrero's sudden passing. A tribute would be held the very next day in honor of Latino Heat, with his family, colleagues, and fans alike showing their love and support. Later that same week, Chavo would wrestle as himself on the SmackDown tribute show, beating JBL while doing Eddie's classic hits in a truly emotional moment. And that marks the end for the short and bizarre run of one Mr. Kerwin White. In the months and years following his stint as Kerwin White, Chavo Guerrero would carve out a decent mid-card career in the WWE, even winning the ECW Heavyweight Championship. While never reaching the heights his uncle Eddie did, he continues to be a solid and dependable veteran in the independent scene to this day. So, how bad was the Kerwin White gimmick actually? If I was to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. Let me explain why. The thing about Kerwin White is that it's 100% a bad idea on paper. But if I squint really hard enough, I could see the potential behind it, like in a so bad it's good kind of way. Chavo's portrayal of the character had a satirical vibe to it, almost as if he's actually mocking white stereotypes rather than embracing it. Which, let's be real, probably wasn't the intended purpose, but more so that Vince just found the idea amusing. It also looked like they never really had any long-term plans for the gimmick, so putting it to rest after Eddie's passing was definitely for the best. Now that I think about it though, I really wish Kerwin White had crossed paths with Muhammad Hassan. That could have made for a very interesting feud. And also, if I could say one absolute positive thing to come out of the gimmick, that theme song was hella catchy though. No wonder they gave it to Michael Cole after. Anyway, what did you think of Kerwin White? Is it the worst gimmick ever? Let me know in the comments below. And if you wanna see more How Bad videos, check out the next one in your screen. See you there.